Welcome back to Hot Flashes and Cool Topics. Today we are going to be talking to Melissa Rivers, the daughter of Joan Rivers, who has recently written a book called Lies My Mother Told Me, Tall Tales from a Short Woman. And Bridget and I have both read the book, and we feel like we kind of were in listening to your conversations with your mom growing up. So welcome to the show, Melissa.
Thank you. Thank you.
What made you think now is a good time to write a book that, because it really is, it's like, your mom so well, you're just speaking her voice.
Well, it's not a memoir.
Yes. Yes.
Like there's like a million disclaimers on the book that this is completely sprung from my imagination. And my writing partner and I, I'm constantly asked, how would my mom be handling this? And what would she be saying? So first we were going to let's write an article addressing this, like maybe on the more serious note. Then we're like, kind of boring. So then we decided, let's do the history of the world as my mother might tell it. And then we got kind of stuck, like the Inquisition was a little rough for us. And then we're like, I don't know, we're all talking about making up all these stories and lies. And we live in this sort of, as we like to call it, truth adjacent world. And we decided to run with it. And it just made us laugh. And it just writing it kept us laughing through COVID.
Your other book too, that you wrote, the conversations that you have. And I think it was reading something where she said, good times, end it with good head. and she explaining, I'm in fifth grade and she explained what that was. And that was another book. And I was picturing her saying these things to you now. And I'm thinking about, we're all the same age. We're all 54 years old. So I'm thinking about myself back in those times. And I'm thinking, I don't think my mom would have said that to me. However, I think if she would have, it would have been really funny. I might have found it. Maybe I would have been more relaxed around my mother and more open to say things. So did you feel very open, it sounds like, to say things in the conversation with your mom?
You know what? No teenage girl feels open. You know what I mean? It comes down to no, I would run screaming from the room with my hair on fire. It was so, people don't understand how incredibly traditional our home was.
Can you talk about that? Because in the book, obviously the stories that you tell don't reflect a traditional upbringing at all. But can you talk a little bit about, because we had shared before we went on the air that we had met once as teenagers when your mom was doing a show in Atlantic City, but that was your life. I met you once when you were doing it. That was your daily routine.
Yes.
What was that like, and still have a traditional upbringing?
My parents were very, very, very clear. And I like to call it, there was a separation of truth and of church and state, where there was fake life and real life. And fake life was work and all this outlandish and outrageous stuff. And home life was, you sit down for dinner every night. The phones are turned off. Homework is done. Homework was checked by my parents. To the day my mom died, most of my friends referred to her as Mrs. Rosenberg. And her phone at her house until the day she died was answered Rosenberg residence. And that is so the perfect example of the difference of the two worlds.
Well, your book certainly doesn't reflect that world.
No, not at all. Yeah, it was a lot of fun to just run with her voice.
Mm-hmm.
And the frightening thing is people keep saying, did she really say these things? And I'm like, oh my God, she wasn't a total psychopath.
What would she think of the book? If she read this book now, what would she think of what the kind of the license you took?
Oh, I think she would be annoyed that she didn't think of it. Okay. She would be like, God, that's a good idea. And I think, I would hope she would think it was funny. I think she would. But I think mostly she would be irritated that she did not think of it first.
It's so amazing. Before your mother passed, my daughter was a senior in high school, or just graduated high school. And my daughter loved Fashion Police. She loved it. She is so excited that I'm talking to you today.
She has a very low bar.
No, she loved it. And your mother, I was living in Louisville, Kentucky at the time, so she came. And we went, she was 80 years old. She was hilarious. And I tie in the whole hot flashes thing because she had the joke about that she kept a tampon in her purse because men could tell if you were whatever past menopausal age, and she just let a tampon slip out at a party. But it was great. And my daughter was so thrilled that we got to see her and just so upset at your mother's passing. And I think it's so interesting the way you see her on stage. But then I also watched The Apprentice when you were on The Apprentice and Celebrity Apprentice, and you could tell at that end how meticulous she was. She was going around putting all the rearranging the frames, the picture frames and everything. And I think I can understand now what you mean when you're saying that she was this way, but she was very formal at home.
Very, very.
Yes. Yeah.
So, and people don't understand that.
Mhm.
You know, and also we all grew up in a world that there were expectations, and there was not, you know, I'm speaking sort of in a general sense between people our age, you know, we're Gen X,
Right.
that there were expectations, and a certain level of courtesy and behavior was demanded, and don't whine, and you work hard. And, you know, I just had a friend who has a millennial working for them who came home from Coachella and feeling really overwhelmed. And I'm like, oh my God, you would go to Coachella, drive home, get 2 hours sleep, and be at work the next day.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
because it was expected. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And we often say that, like, when the kids nowadays, we sound so old, but when the kids say, I took a mental health day, our bosses would have been like, you can now take 365 mental
Yes.
health days because you're not coming back. Like,
Yeah.
it just is a very different world. So it was interesting to see when you tell these stories, because you tell stories of, you traveling with your mom and kind of taking license on all the affairs that she claims she had with every person in every story. And she was such a trailblazer for comedy at that time. What kind of pushback did she get then? Because nowadays it just seems like it's a very different world.
You know, it was hard for a woman in the comedy business.
Right.
You know, there was always pushback. There's still pushback for women comedians. If you want to take it to a broader topic, the pendulum has swung so far one direction that I don't know. I mean, comics are scared. And what really irks me, I can't believe I just used the word irks. What really upsets me, what really aches me, is people are being canceled for things they did 20 years ago. And what upsets me about that, not that anyone cares, is you're telling people they can't grow and change and learn. Could you imagine if we were all judged for what we did at 22?
Right,
Oh,
and
well,
if they had video cameras, like
There
your
was
phone.
no iPhone, no
Yeah, we
iPhones.
didn't have that.
yeah.
I don't want people seeing me at my worst,
Yeah.
and
But not
judging
even your,
me.
but
Yeah.
not even your worst.
Yes,
Because what was acceptable and not acceptable were vastly different. And I'm not saying that changes weren't necessary, and giant sweeping changes socially were necessary and are necessary, but not to the extent that you can't allow people to learn and change. And that's, I feel like, a lot of times what people are saying. Oh my God, you're canceled because of something you said at 25 and you're now 55. So I still have to be the same person. Oh God, why did I go deep? So boring.
No,
okay.
no, but I think it's, our demographic of listeners completely understand that, because
Yeah.
we're 40 plus. So you're talking to Gen X and up. It's true. And I think that when I hear my kids who are in their 20s talk about, I can't believe this person said that, or I can't believe this person told a joke about that, I'm like, that is tame compared to
That's nothing.
compared to the jokes that were comedians. It's expected, to tell jokes. What do you think or really, what was your opinion of the Academy Awards? Number one, with the 3 female comedians as hosts, and then 2, what happened after?
I love that they had the 3 female comedians. What I felt was not okay was putting them in a situation where they basically had to do material that was virtually toothless, especially for Amy and Wanda. And Wanda, who's so sarcastic and so funny, as is Amy, but you basically force them into such bland humor. I felt like their hands were tied. And I look at it differently, right? I think they all did a great job. Yes, 100%. The slap, unforgivable, unexcusable. But for me, 2 things. One is then you went and took a victory lap at the Vanity Fair party. Like, wow. Wow. And the best quote I've heard about the whole thing, which really sums it up, is, I forget who it was. Someone said, and you wonder how Harvey Weinstein got away with it all those years. Everybody just sat there.
Yeah. That was unbelievable. That was just so, I don't even know, just bullying. Like, bullying's okay then. Go ahead and bully. That's what I felt like it was, that bullying was okay.
Nobody's talking about what sort of, everyone's forgetting what came after, which was horrible. Venus and Serena, please, they have been conspicuously silent.
Yes, that is true.
He basically called himself Crazy Richard.
Mm-hmm. And then Richard didn't like it. Didn't like what he did. Yeah.
But I'm just saying, and the girls
Yeah.
have to sit there, and now he, with this moment, and he now just disparaged their father.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And took away the hard work of everybody else by,
Yeah.
you know, he receives this award, and it overshadowed everything that movie stood for, and all the hard work of everybody else that was put in. And it's a shame. And, you know, you were
But
saying,
I felt awful for them.
right.
Yes.
Awful.
For
It ruined
Questlove.
their night.
Oh,
Oh,
I
poor
mean,
Questlove. That was
I
just,
know. That was awful. And we had talked to Florence LaRue, who was in the 5th Dimension, and we had been talking to her about, you're in that movie. We're so excited for you. And then it's like you can't even remember what happened.
no. But
That's
I felt so
heartbreaking.
sorry. And I think that their silence is very telling of
Mhm.
their thoughts on the whole thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Mhm.
How involved are you still in the industry?
Oh, dear God. Like, this is my 4th book.
Right.
I have multiple projects. I have my podcast. I have 2 scripted shows that are about to be announced. And I'm doing, my normal stuff. It's so funny because everyone's like, what are you doing? It's like, everything's digital now. Everything's online. You can't find anything anymore. But oh yeah, I'm still working, and Cooper's a junior in college and 21, and I can't get past that.
You talk a little bit about empty nesting in the book,
Ugh.
in a comedic way, but how is it really for you?
Oh, it's awful. It's awful. Anyone who tells you otherwise is lying. It's awful. For me, it's awful, but I have an only child. It was a single parent. So, I did everything but wrap myself around his ankles and not let him leave the house. So, I am not enjoying empty nesting.
I did not enjoy it either. And mine are 26 and 29. And I mean, sounds came out of me when I hugged my daughter goodbye. She was the younger one that I didn't know my body could make. I was like, ugh.
Yeah.
And yeah, they both came back when the pandemic started, and they're both gone now. I got a little bit better after that, after getting them back for a little bit, but I still miss them. And it's not easy. Yeah.
No, but I will tell you, when my friends and I were laughing, because it was like, as soon as we got into our new routines, because he was a freshman the year of the pandemic, you just sort of started to figure out your schedule and how you would do things and then they come back and they've now had their first semester of quote unquote freedom, and suddenly you've got rules again. Yeah, that went super well in the beginning for everybody. And suddenly it's like, I like my schedule, and then you have to lose them again.
Mhm. And
You
you
know,
just didn't know what was going to happen too. Are they going
no,
to be online? Are they going to be on campus? What's happening? But
it was
it's,
incredibly stressful.
yes, it had to be.
We like to call it the revolving door. They come, they go, they
They
come.
might come back. I don't know.
But I think I would be perfectly happy to buy a compound and have Cooper and his family live on it. That would be ideal.
Absolutely.
Yep.
That
I would
would be
say a
ideal.
nice 20-acre plot, and you have a few houses,
Yeah.
and you just few golf
Mhm.
carts, and there you go. We're
That
right
would be
there with you.
ideal. That would be ideal.
That would be whenever Colleen and I say that whenever our children have children, we're just going to have to move to where they are. We're just going to have to be there.
Sorry.
If
Yes,
Cooper has a child anytime soon, I will rip his fucking throat out.
Like mine, okay, 26, 29, I'll live.
Yeah, you're
But you're
kidding.
right, 20, 21,
No,
22, still in college now.
no.
So
I will rip his face off with my bare hands.
Ooh, okay. Hopefully his girlfriend is not listening. If he has one, I don't
Yes,
even
he
know.
does. And she's wonderful.
Okay.
And it's like, I keep saying, I wish they met 5 years from now
Mhm.
oh,
yeah,
because the
because-
timing.
because I really like her. And she brings out the best in him.
Oh, well, that's good.
And she kicks his ass. I mean, and she's great.
Would your
Mm.
mom like her?
Oh, very much.
Okay.
You know, my son has managed to date for the last year someone personality wise who resembles both me and my mother in the sense of we're strong, we're opinionated. And also, by the way, but that's his comfort level.
Mhm.
And he can hold his own. He very much can hold his own, but being around a strong woman who is career oriented, who has opinions, that's where he's comfortable. Which I feel like means I've raised and not thinking there's anything a woman can't do. And that was one of my goals raising him was I want to make a good man.
Mhm. I think you see that a lot in a lot of women, entrepreneurs, a lot of women that are very savvy business wise. You see really great sons come from them. I don't know. I've just kind of seen that happen in the past.
Well, I think it's because they're also very comfortable with strong women.
Yes. Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah. Mhm.
True. How accurate, and I know it's you write in satire, but how accurate was the wedding planning for your wedding? Because it sounded a little bit like my own from my mother. So I'm just curious, when you described your wedding planning, was there some accuracy in that, or was it completely?
Oh, I think I don't remember exactly how much of it I wrote about in the book.
Basically that your mother took over, and then
Oh, yeah. I may have actually written the watered down version.
Okay.
I was simply a body that did not complain, just stand there and show up in time.
Okay, that's pretty much how you wrote it. Yep, that's right.
Yeah, it was.
I'm
Yeah.
like, did I go way over the top? And I'm like, no, I think that's one where I actually underplayed what happened.
What really happened.
Yeah,
Wow.
just like since like after I had Cooper, I'm like, apparently I am not useful any longer, other than showing up for work. Like,
There you go.
you may be excused.
Well, I kind of, you could understand that once Cooper is in the right state of his life to have a child.
Don't
that-
scare me.
No, don't. But like my daughter got married last year, and probably in the next 2 to 3 years, she's going to have a baby, and she knows I am going to step over her to get to that baby, and I will adore her. But the baby is going to be spoiled rotten, and that's just because you earn the right as a grandparent to spoil.
Well, she's simply served her purpose.
I'll word it that way to her, but it's pretty close.
She served her purpose. Next, I have a friend who's about to have her first grandchild, and that's basically her attitude. Is like her daughter's simply a carrier.
But my daughter said, well, my daughter lives in Austin, and she said, are you and Dad ever thinking about moving to Austin? I said, you have a baby, we will move to Austin. We will find a place in
You're
Austin.
bribing her. There you go. You're
I
bribing
am.
your child.
I am, yes.
What-
Are you
Whatever
sure
works.
she said it in the way of, are you ever going to move to Austin? Or are you ever going to move to Austin?
I know.
Where was the inflection in
I
that
know.
statement?
It was the excitement one, which is
Okay.
surprising because she wasn't like that in college. She didn't want me anywhere around her in college. But now that she's out on her own, she kind of wants me around.
Suddenly
So,
you need mommy again.
yes, yes. They both stay on the phone longer than they did when they were in college. In college, it was
Kind
like,
of nice.
I've got to go now. Okay.
Like I knew Cooper was having a hard week because I actually got texts that had full words,
Well, yeah.
not just emojis
and letters.
or a letter or a thumbs up, like actual words
Yes.
spelled out in a full sentence.
Mhm.
No punctuation, but a full sentence.
Well, you can't
Yeah.
have everything. I mean,
Right,
Yeah,
right.
I know I have high expectations.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
hope springs eternal.
Yeah.
you might get it one of these days, but
Hey, I'm not holding my breath.
what was it like working with your mom on the red carpet? Because you talk a little bit about it in the new book, but I think you talked about it more previously.
Yeah, I mean, we had fun and it was great. And I was very lucky to get the chance to work with her and learn from her. But it's like anything. I mean, we would have conflicts or mother-daughter conflicts, and we would have coworker conflicts. And, we would handle them very differently because she was a spit it all out, get it all off her chest, blah, 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 and then move on and be fine. And I would seethe. So we would like have an argument when I was producing Fashion Police and she was hosting, and then I would be driving her home or whatever. And she would be in the car going like, can we stop here? Should we stop and get a coffee? Let's go to lunch. Let's do this. And I would be like, I need to get home, and you're going to be lucky if I slow down enough for you to get out.
Just jump. Just start jumping.
I'm going to leave you at the bottom of the hill. Good luck. So in that sense, like it was a coworker, but what was always so interesting is we handled that stuff so differently. And I would always get that, oh, you're being just like your father. Let it go. I'm like, it's been 15 minutes. At least give me a good half hour.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, the past is the past.
Exactly.
No matter how long it was in the past.
I'm white knuckles on the steering wheel going,
yeah.
And she'd be changing the radio stations.
Over it.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Just like,
I can imagine my daughter not being like that though, because I wasn't like that with my mother, but my daughter and I kind of are like that. So I can totally see how that happened. But you all were really, to me, I felt like you all really were what made the red carpet a thing. I don't really remember it being a thing before you.
It wasn't.
It wasn't.
Yeah.
It wasn't.
Yeah.
And we had so much fun. We had so much fun working together. And it was so exciting to be there at the beginning of it and watch it grow. And at one point I did say to her, I think we may have released the Kraken. I'm not sure if we're going to heaven or hell for this.
Yeah.
But it was such a special time, and we really did enjoy working together, and we knew each other so well and each other's timing so well that it was such an easy dance.
Mm-hmm. Oh, she was so good. And whose boobs did she touch? I can't remember. I remember
Christina Hendricks.
Oh, that was it. She did the back of her hand against her boobs. That was so funny. I just, it was just like, everybody wanted to find out. So just go ahead. Yeah. Just go
Could you imagine doing that now?
That's what I was just going to ask. Could you imagine?
Yeah.
Nobody
asked. Didn't she ask?
She asked. Of course she asked.
She had permission.
But still, you wouldn't be even allowed to ask.
That's
right.
true.
Exactly. Like, because I was going to say, I don't think anyone has been able to, I wouldn't use the term replace, but kind of mimic the red carpet that you and your mom had. I just don't think it can be reinvented anymore. It was a perfect time and a perfect place. But now people get so sensitive and angry about what you're wearing and does top 10 and the worst dressed. I don't know that it would play like that now.
It wouldn't play like that anymore. And I don't think everyone's like, aren't you going to bring it back? I'm like, how?
Right.
How? You don't want what doing a show about everybody looking fantastic is not entertaining.
It would get boring.
Because it's also not realistic. You
Right.
don't sit on your couch and say, gosh, doesn't everyone look great? You're like, oh my God, that's horrible. So, and that's really what the show was with Fashion Police.
Yeah.
So can you do it again? I don't think so. Also, I'm not sure, we had such a special dynamic, especially comedically. We always joke my mom was so smart. Even back then, she had the foresight to give birth to her own straight man. That always used to be like our joke. She was that forward thinking. And that was one of the hardest things for me after she passed, is sitting there one day and thinking, I'm part of an act. I'm part of a comedy. I'm part of a duo. How do I reinvent myself? Like, I don't know how. We were so entrenched in our roles that I would think about it like, I'm lost.
And that is it's so hard. It's especially for you. I lost my mother a year before your mother passed, but I didn't work with my mother. And I mean,
Right.
God, I miss her. We both miss our mothers terribly.
Of course.
But if she wasn't, I didn't work with her every day.
Right.
It didn't, the way my mother passed wasn't sudden the way your mother passed. So I think it's got to be tremendously difficult, but it does sound like you have found ways
Oh yeah.
to do things. And
It was amazing to me, like suddenly, and it was so interesting because a few months after she passed, I was at an event and was seated at one table over from Barry Gibb, and the second brother had just died. And the two of us hugged each other. And I said, I've never been anything but part of a duo. And he's like, I get it. He's like, I don't know, for as much as he did independently, just like me, did so much. He's like, we're part of an act. And it was such a lovely moment, because I'm like, someone understands how this feels. And you got to figure out, how do you keep your career going, and how do you continue to be a performer? I can't just go get another sidekick.
It's not going to be the same. Yeah.
I just want to ask, for those women who are really close with their moms that are listening, that have either recently lost a parent or feel a little lost, what would you say would be like one or two suggestions you would give them to kind of just start to take a step forward, not necessarily move forward, but just kind of accept this reality and start to process it?
I always think about that. The best way to honor my mom's legacy was moving forward. And that's what I always say to people. First of all, everybody grieves differently. Don't let anyone tell you that what you're doing is right or wrong. Grief is terribly personal. And just remember, if you loved your mother and you had a good relationship and she loved you, she's not going to want you to just sit in a puddle forever. Your mother's not going to want you to be miserable.
Good
and
point.
allow yourself to move forward. You're doing what she would want you to do. And that's sort of a hard concept to get your head around.
Yeah.
But it's true. Your mother doesn't want you sitting in a puddle for the rest of your life. Doesn't mean you love them any less. It doesn't mean you don't think about them every day. It does not mean any of that. But if you really loved your child, do you want them to just be miserable?
Absolutely. Yeah. If you are a mother, you can think about putting your own children in that place and say, I don't want that for my child. And I don't think my mother would want that for me. And you just one day at a time.
Yeah.
Just keep moving forward. And then it's good memories that you have after that. It's great.
And I went through that after losing my father. It becomes bittersweet.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's been a while with both, and I'll just be talking, I'll be fine. And I'll be talking to my husband and say something about my parents. And I'll just be like, it's been like, I don't even know how long it's been since my father passed away, but it's like tears just come out.
Yeah, triggers.
It's really strange, but it's not all the time.
But that's normal.
Yeah.
That's normal.
Yeah. Mhm.
You know, I was talking to someone the other day and they were talking about their daughter they were divorced, and when her daughter's father died and she still hasn't gotten past it. I said, how long ago? And I'm thinking her to say 2 years, 3 years. She goes, 11. And I'm like, does your daughter go to therapy? Because this is really unhealthy that she
Mhm.
cannot move on from her father's death 11 years ago.
Years later. Yeah.
This is bad.
Mhm. Yeah. And therapy's great.
Yes. Therapy is the best. You have to. You have to.
Yeah. Yeah. It's fantastic.
And you talk about that in the book too.
Yes, I
The
do.
joys of therapy.
Yes. And I always tell my friends, the best part about therapy is you get to go and vent and talk shit about everybody and say whatever you want and verbal vomit it all out. And you don't have to say thank you for listening because you're paying.
Because you're paying them. Yes. Yeah. Oh, man. Well, I was wanting to talk about your group text podcast. Could you? Because I
Yes.
think you started that around the same time we started our podcast. And how did that come about? And just how does that all work?
It came apart from looking at actual texts from different groups of friends and thinking we all talk about really interesting stuff. We talk about funny stuff. We talk about what we're watching. We talk about anything and everything. And I'm like, this could be a podcast. And that's literally how it started.
Mhm.
Like there was no great aha moment.
That's kind of like ours. We figured, okay, we're going to talk about everything with midlife women. And that really covers the gamut of everything. So
Yeah,
you think,
absolutely.
am I going to run out of topics? Why, no, I'm not going
Yeah.
to.
Exactly.
What seems the most popular topics on your podcast right now to talk about?
Anytime I have on a reality star,
Really? Okay.
literally anytime I interview a reality star.
That is so. I know you had Dorinda Medley.
Yeah.
And, yeah. Different. Yes.
Anytime.
Anytime. That's amazing to me. And that's something I feel like that's another thing my daughter is so into is the reality shows.
Well, they're all into it. That and,
Yes.
online everything.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So
They're very into it. Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah. People lost their cookies. I just had on Captain Glenn from Below Deck Sailing Yacht.
Oh, right.
Yes. Yeah.
And people were literally losing their minds.
Oh my gosh.
Like,
it is amazing. Yeah.
That always does well for us.
That's funny because we say you could have the leading expert in some of the most important topics, but you get a good reality star or you get a comedian or somebody else, and people just enjoy that lightheartedness, I think.
Mm-hmm. And that's what people are watching and are fascinated by it. Obviously, there's one after the next.
There are. It's funny. Yeah. Because that is like my daughter's thing. That's the one time if I call her and The Bachelor's on, I'm sorry, The Bachelor's on, The Bachelorette's on, Mom. I'll talk to you in a little bit. Like, okay, Maggie. Yeah.
So invested in it.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. Well, and they're not reality, so I don't know why they call them reality. They're scripted shows, but hey, whatever works.
We live in Nashville, and there's someone in the neighborhood that is on one where we live, and they asked some of us to come over and do be in whatever in it, and I was like, okay, I didn't know in reality they did take after take after take of the same scene. It's like this is like their sixth take of the same scene. Yeah.
Let's pretend like it's reality. So the book is out now, and we want everybody to check out the book. It's called Lies My Mother Told Me, Tall Tales from a Short Woman, and check out the podcast as well. Thank you so much for coming on the show, Melissa. We really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. It was easy and fun.